I'm Whitney Hall, and this is the Fridays. What's up? What's up? I cannot believe it is finally episode 1. Now, for you, no time has passed. You're like, girl, what is this? But for me, this has really been a year or so of me ideating and thinking about and kind of brainstorming on this podcast concept. I'm really excited to be in a space where I am back talking about things that interest me and not clogging up all of my friends' text messages with my voice notes, aka mini podcasts that they've been receiving. But seriously, I'm really happy to be here. I'm excited to kind of go on this journey. But I'm sure you're wondering, what's the Fridays? So the Fridays is something that I started saying a few years ago when I used to work this job that was actually just very toxic. A lot of us would come in on Mondays and people would be like, "Oh my goodness, like oh, I got the Monday blues." Even people would text me on Sunday night talking about Sunday scaries. Like the days of the week were definitely personified because we were going through it. But by Friday, I felt like the energy was just so good. We worked half days on Fridays. People were just like in a better mood. So was I. And I would be like, "Oh, I got the Fridays." And it was really all I had in that season. Mostly because Fridays were just kind of this day where I got to have some joy. I would either be hanging out with my friends, we were going to dinner, or we would go to a movie or something. My band would sometimes be performing, a lot of times be performing on Friday nights. And it just felt like Friday was the thing that I was living for. Now, fast forward to me leaving that job. And last year, I started noticing that, oh man, I'm still living for Friday. Now, I'm no longer in a job that I hate. I have, interest and things to get into, but I was still kind of saving those things for the weekend. And I remember I stopped by my coworker's desk and I was like, girl, I feel like I'm living the same day over and over again because I really was. I would wake up in the morning, let my dog out, we go for a walk, and then it was like go to work, do the same thing, and rinse, wash, repeat. I would even just drive home and drive to work the same way every day. And so she and I had a really good conversation. And that day, I was like, you know what? At least I'm going to drive home a different way today. So I did because at least I could see new trees. So drive home different. But then I started thinking, like, I really want to cultivate a life where I am doing things not just on the weekend, but I can go hang out on a random Tuesday. I can do things on a Thursday, call somebody and say, hey, let's go to lunch on Monday. I can live that sort of life. But if I'm being real with you, I'm not doing a great job of that. I'm still struggling during the week to be like, oh, let's go do something fun. Like I may run by the grocery store or do something that I need to do, but I still feel a little bit of comfort, if I'm honest, in just coming straight home. So this podcast and the idea of the Fridays is about letting that joy seep into every part of your life. That Friday feeling doesn't have to live on Friday and it doesn't have to live for the weekend. And I'm going to walk and talk through that here with you. So, again, welcome to the Fridays. Of course, what the world needs now is one more podcast. Does not need one more podcast. But I'm a journalist, and specifically, I used to be a TV news journalist. And so the way that I like to process is by talking. The way that I like to process is through conversation. And so for me, I think this is a perfect avenue. I hope that it will be good for you. I want to talk to you. I want you all to send me voice notes and messages, and I want to chat and I want to interview you. So I hope that you are willing to come along for this journey. So let's jump into episode 1 of the Fridays, which I'm calling A More Interested Life. Now, I'm starting this podcast in the summer on purpose. I feel like the summer just automatically has a little bit of that Friday energy. Like you're already feeling like I can have a little bit more fun. Our schedules are a little more lax for better or for worse. And the summer just, it feels like a good time to kind of dive into living in what I call the Fridays mindset. For me, summers haven't always been chill because I work in higher education. So I left journalism moved into higher ed communications. And man, when I tell you higher ed for your friends on the student services side of things is not chill in the summer at all. Like, we are orienting students. We are, getting ready for registration rush. We're, making sure that our student leaders are trained, and we're doing trainings and going to conferences. It is like club, another bus, nonstop all the time. But this summer, I feel like I have a little bit of like leeway. Also, I just finished graduate school, so I don't have to do homework. And girl, doing homework as an adult is crazy. Why was I doing that? Anyway, so this summer I am doing something that you can actually join along with me and do called my summer syllabus. Again, I just finished school, so my mind is still on school and I work for a college. But the summer syllabus is not going to be like, girl, take out your pen and paper. Although for a few things you will have to take out your pen and paper, but it's going to be an opportunity for us to dive deeper into a few things. So the reason that I call this episode A More Interested Life is because I feel like we live in a time where a lot of people want to be interesting. They want to be perceived as interesting. There is a lot of like, look at me happening all around us all the time. But I was kind of just like brainstorming through this and really thinking like, throughout my life, what I've always been taught is that the most interesting person is a person who has interest, is a person who is deep and not wide. They've honed their craft. They're a person who's really kind of like known for things, even if it's a lot of different things. I feel like craft and mastery are not words that we use enough, and even when they are used, I feel like it's a little bit performative. And I'm not the only person that's talking about this right now. I hear a lot of conversations about this, and I love when I'm like processing through something, and then I hear that other people are kind of processing through it at the same time. I like when there's kind of like a thought in the world at the same time. It's always very cool to me. So as I was like prepping for this episode, I came across a creator on social media. I think she's a creator. I'm not really sure. This is the first time I ever saw her, and I was just so blown away by her take. Her name's Bonnie Humphreys. I'm gonna put her information in the show notes so that you can go and follow her. But I was just so like clapping my hands, snapping my fingers as she was talking because she was saying everything that I was thinking. She talked about how people online now form personalities to fit what's popular. So it's no longer people gaining social currency or influence because they have honed a craft or mastered something, but it's because they do what fits the moment and what fits the algorithm. And I think that's why so much of social media to so many of us feels hollow. It feels manufactured. I feel like there is just not enough depth of craft, not enough depth of interest. And I can be honest that I found myself sometimes falling into that same trap. That's why I really wanted to do the summer syllabus this year, because I really wanted an opportunity to kind of dig deep into some areas. And so those areas that I'm planning to dig into this summer, and I hope you will join me, are beauty, body, craft, and community. And I'll tell you a little bit more in a second about why I'm digging into those four areas, but I really want to spend some time in those areas, really kind of exploring not only what's going on in kind of the grand scheme of things in those areas, but also my relationship to those things. And I think that they're bigger than just like seeing beautiful things or saying, oh, I'm going to hone my craft. It's really about creating a lifestyle for myself that says take it a little slower and go a little deeper. So let's talk a little bit about the summer syllabus. So first up, we're talking about beauty. And of course, I'm not talking about hair and makeup and things of that nature. I'm really talking about what we notice. And I feel like I'm not ragging on the internet. I'm a millennial. I feel like the internet is our playground. However, I do feel like the internet has untrained us on being good noticers. And I think one of the ways to get back to being someone who is really good at noticing is by experiencing beauty. And what I mean by beauty is like art and creativity and nature and things that make you slow down and really look at them and really take them in to experience them. It helps you to see what you see, but also to know how what you're seeing makes you feel. I think a lot of the like endless scroll disconnects us so much from like what we're feeling in the moment, so that when we're walking around in the world and we see beautiful things and we feel a feeling, we don't always recognize that we're experiencing beauty because we don't know what something beautiful feels like. We may know like what's aesthetic to us, but we don't always know that we are experiencing beauty. And so I really want us to take some time to notice what we notice, see what we see. So inside of the summer syllabus, I'm going to give you some assignments. They're pretty simple things to do, but I'm also going to tell you the things that I plan to do in these areas. So for beauty, my plan is to go to an art exhibit. Specifically, I want to go see Amy Sherald's American Sublime at the High Museum in Atlanta. So I live in Birmingham, Alabama. Atlanta is a hop, skip, and a jump away. Half my family lives there. Going to Atlanta feels like home. So I was like, this is perfect timing for this and for my summer syllabus. I really want to see this show. Amy Sherald is, well known for her muted colors. She paints Black people in muted colors of the skin tone, but very vibrant colors of their clothing. She famously, of course, did Michelle Obama's portrait when she was first lady. So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing this show and seeing what I see and what it brings up in me. Like I want to know how I'm going to feel as I'm watching these things. And so I think art galleries are a good way for you to go experience art and really slow down, walk through, read, look, stare, and notice what you notice. And then the other thing that I plan to do is also art related. I follow a creator online. You may follow her too, named Miriam Poppins. She's a digital artist and she also offers some digital art classes. I was just kind of scrolling through her website and saw this, and I was like, you know what? I want to create some beauty too. And I am not a good artist. Like, I've never really been good at drawing or anything, but I want to just do something for me that's creating beauty outside of my regular mediums that I use. So that's the beauty section. I think it's going to be a good time. I'm really curious of how it's going to train my eye in, again, noticing what I notice. So the other thing that I want to dive into this summer that I think is probably going to be my favorite section of the syllabus is craft. I talked to you a second ago about how much I really am thinking about craft and thinking about people who are serious about honing their craft. And I think one of the reasons that I am really such a craft person is because I am a lover of hip hop. Now, I know people be saying that, but like, no, I really love hip hop. It's probably my favorite genre to listen to, and especially like old school hip hop. And it's mostly because I'm a musician and I love like the syncopated beats and the musicality and the samples mixed in with the writing, because again, I'm also a writer. It's all of the things that I love coming together. And I really, really love listening to people's kind of stories of how they've honed their craft. So, of course, I'm a Jay-Z lover. I love listening to him talk about how he has just developed his craft over the years to be a better writer and a better thinker. And it breaks my heart because, for the last few years, we've had a lot of hip hop artists talking about how they aren't really students of hip hop and they aren't people who want to hone their crafts. And that really makes me sad because I think craft is something that we're just missing so much of these days. Like, so many people are going into things simply to make money, and I'm not indicting them because of that. Because when you think about it, it really says something about society, that people no longer can create just to create, but they have to create as a way to get themselves out of their material condition. And so I don't judge people for that, but it does make me sad. And I think for those of us who can dive deeper into our crafts, this is a great time to do it. So for the craft section of the syllabus, the big thing is really like understanding what are your areas of craft. I think a lot of us, unfortunately, have had to become jacks of all trade, like doing all sorts of things because of necessity, especially when you're a creator. Like, you can always in the beginning hire out. So you have to kind of learn how to do a little bit of everything. But I think it's important to know where are the areas where you're most trained, where are the areas where you're most skilled, and really diving into those areas. So for me, the crafts that I'm really diving into this summer are music and writing. So again, I'm a musician. I've been a musician. When I say all of my life, I really mean like all of my life. I come from a family of musicians. My dad is a professional musician and has had a band with his brothers for years and years. And I started singing, I don't know, probably when I started talking, but I started taking like formal voice lessons in like second grade. I started playing violin in fourth grade and the guitar in seventh. And I've always kind of just been in musical aggregations and groups and things throughout my life. But once I got out of college and I was in my band, I would, like practice with my band. And I was a musical director at a church. So I would, like be teaching music for that, but I wasn't really honing my craft. And so I can say for like the last 10 to 12 years, I've been doing music, but I haven't really like been studying it and making sure that I'm always getting better and better. And as someone with a musical gift, sometimes you can really take that for granted. But I want to make sure that I'm pouring back into myself, into my gift, not so much for me, but because I have a skill that I can pass on, that I can teach young people, that I can teach my nieces and nephews. And so I want to make sure that I am stewarding that skill and that craft well. So yeah, I'm really focusing on music this summer and I'm going to take some guitar lessons. My dad taught me how to play guitar and he's always been the person that kind of trained me. I've never actually taken lessons from anyone else. So I'm very excited for an opportunity to take some lessons. When I talked to the guy, he was like, okay. And I was like, treat me like, anybody else that you would train. I want you to just like see where I am and fill in the gaps and like, let's have a good time. So I'm very excited about those lessons. And then the second thing that I'm planning to do is dedicating my morning, like 15 minutes in the morning, to creative writing. So again, I'm a writer, I'm a journalist, but I don't always practice writing. When I have to write, because I write for a living, like I'm a communications director, I'm always writing emails, writing memos, writing things, but I don't practice writing. Like when I want to write something, I just sit down and write it. But what I notice is like sometimes I feel like it's the same thing. It's in a rut. There's no kind of like new creativity seeping in. And so I want to dedicate myself to really like practicing creative writing, like getting better at metaphor and alliteration and things of that nature. I really want to get better at my writing craft. And so craft is probably going to be my favorite section of the summer because again, these are the things that I have depth of skill and knowledge and training in, and I'm really excited to dive deeper into them. So I hope that you will also dive into your craft. Now, I will tell you, as you go through the syllabus, you'll see this in the very beginning, you have the option to kind of follow this syllabus each section for about 3 weeks at a time, or you can hop around or you can focus on one thing for the entire summer. It's totally up to you. I really just kind of want to give you a starting ground and then you do what you want to do, child. And if you want to pick 4 different areas, I'm all for it. But I do want to hear about if you are planning to join it. So please email me, DM me. I would love to talk to you if you are joining me in this summer series. Now, body is an area that at first I was like, I don't know if I'm going to put this on the list because I have been dealing with some sickness for the last few years. And I was like, people may not be able to relate to this, but it was really important to me to make sure that I included something about my body in this because, again, I've been dealing with sickness for the last few years and a lot this year as well. And just trying to like figure out how to be appreciative of my body while also feeling like, girl, what are you doing? Why are you going through things? um so yeah, I really want this section to be mostly about just like appreciation and making sure that you're giving yourself opportunity to move in new ways. So, one of the big parts of this section is a letter that you're going to write to yourself and to your body. Thanking it and thanking yourself and thanking God for giving you the ability to still be able to do whatever you're able to do. There are things that I miss doing that I can't do anymore, but there are things that I'm still able to do. And just like the thought that my body has carried me through sickness and difficulty and injury and all of these things, I do want to pause for a moment and really like thank my body for what it does for me every single day. The other thing for me that I'm planning to do in this, and prepare to talk about me, side eye me, judge me, it's fine. Let me start here before I tell you what I'm going to do. I really love whitewater rafting. I love water in general. I've been whitewater rafting since I was like in the seventh grade. I was in this like inner city youth program, and they would take us on trips to North Carolina and we would go whitewater rafting. When I think about it in retrospect, it's kind of crazy, but we would go. I loved it. I would always tell people like, "Hey, don't get in my raft if you're gonna be acting crazy," because I nobody falls out my raft. And even when I became like an adult and I would go whitewater rafting with people, I would say the same thing, like, "Don't play around in my raft." One time, my sister-in-law was in my raft with me, and this was before she was my sister-in-law, and she almost fell out, and I literally reached over and pulled her back in before she could fall, and I was like, "Girl, I told you, nobody falls out my raft." Now, the reason that I was like that, this is where you can prepare to judge me, is because I cannot swim. I'm talking I have no swimming skills. If I were to fall into a body of water, it's over. I don't know how to swim. It's because my brother's best friend threw me in a pool one time when I was like 10 years old and I had just got my hair done and I was very mad at him about it and it traumatized me. That's why I can't swim. I feel like all black girls got that same sad story. But that's why I was crazy about the raft. However, why was I in the raft and I can't swim? We'll never know. But this summer, as a part of my like new movement honoring my body and my life, I'm going to take swimming lessons and I'm so excited about it. I'm also terrified, but I'm really excited because one, swimming is a survival skill. Why don't I want to survive? It's a really good way to move your body. It's a good option to move your body in a new way. So I'm really, really excited about my swim lessons for this summer. So that's the body section. I think that letter to yourself is going to be really good. And it may take you some time. Like it may take you a few days or a few weeks to kind of get it all out. But I do think it's going to be good for you because you may have a complicated relationship with your body. Maybe it's not sickness, maybe it's self image, maybe it's, disability, but I think it's really good to be appreciative for the home that we have, because this is where we really live inside of ourselves. And so, last on the list for the summer syllabus is community. And I know, child, everybody talks about community. I get it. It's a buzzword. Honestly, at this point, it's a marketing scheme. But I'm talking about real deep community. I know a lot of times when we talk about community, we're just talking about like our friendships and the people that are around us, maybe the people we work with or go to church with. But I'm talking about like really being a community member, like being in your neighborhood. Now, for some of us, we live in crazy neighborhoods. Where there may be challenges and people that we don't get along with. And I hope that even if that's the case, that you can find a little place that makes you feel like you belong. So the things I'm encouraging people to do in the community section is become a regular somewhere. And That may seem generic or it may seem arbitrary to you, but I promise it's important for you to be known as like being at a place. That's how you really start to develop a sense of community. When you walk into a place and like you get the norm treatment from Cheers, they're like, Norm. I feel like that is like the dream. And that's how you know you've really like invested in a place. And so I'm really encouraging people to become a regular at a coffee shop, at the library. The people at the library know me, and I'm new to the area where I live. But I love when I walk in the library and the librarians are like, "You're back," and I'm like, "Girl, you remember me? Hey, that feels good. Now give me my Kennedy Ryan book because I'm ready to read." But seriously, I think it's really important to be a regular, to be known somewhere, to be seen at kind of the same place. It doesn't have to be somewhere that costs money. Again, a library, a park, things of that nature. Something where you can just go and people know you and they see you on a regular basis and you really become a part of the community. Maybe it's not directly in your neighborhood. Maybe it's the neighborhood adjacent or maybe it's the downtown area. But I think it's really important to be seen and known and heard because we live in a time where so many people feel isolated and say they want community, but we aren't doing the things that are going to get us community. I know, I told you at the top, I'm not doing a great job of not just going to work and coming home. So for me, this is really a push outside of my comfort zone, beyond the library to go somewhere and be seen. So I'm committing to like finding a coffee shop and going in there and sitting for 1 to 2 hours. Now, for me, the other thing that I'm also planning to do is joining and volunteering for a political campaign. Now, I will tell you, this is not a podcast that won't get political. Um, the times are too dire for me to never talk about politics. Also, I enjoy politics to an extent. I want to join a political campaign and work on it because one, I have the skill set to do that, but also I live in Alabama. If you haven't heard about the voting rights stuff in Alabama, pause this, go look it up, learn about it, be devastated, and then find out how you can help. I feel like we have very consequential elections coming up, especially in our state, specifically for the governor. And I want to do my part to make sure that the state I live in, the place where my nieces and nephews are growing, and the people that I love have to reside, I want to make sure that it has a fighting chance. And so I'm joining and volunteering for a political campaign because that's really important to me. And it makes me feel like I am giving something to my community and being a good community member and learning how to work alongside people that I may not 100% agree with, but who I know are going to help me get some things accomplished. So yeah, I want to volunteer for Doug Jones' campaign specifically and do my part to make sure that our state is moving in a direction that I really believe in. Now, volunteering for a political campaign may be like the worst thing you've ever heard of doing, but there are organizations or things you can join in your community. I'm just encouraging people to join something. You can join the pickleball team. My main focus is that you get out there, that you are seen and known in your community, and that you have a connection point. Because the more we talk about loneliness and the more we talk about people feeling isolated, the more I'm afraid for us being able to work together if times become worse, because we are in crazy times, not just in America, but in so many countries around the world. And so, encourage you to get out in your community. I really hope that the summer syllabus is something that you will truly join me in doing. I think it's going to be a good time. I think it's going to be a good experience. Also, feel like the summer syllabus is something that we can do multiple summers. We can tweak it. We can add new sections. So I'm excited to see how it evolves. I don't know about if I'm going to do like a fall or winter syllabus because again, I work in education. It gets busy, it gets crazy. But I think for the summer, while we have a little bit of a slower time, that we can commit ourselves to diving deeper, to be having a more interested life. And I think by doing that, we are going to, be able to have some depth and not just width. And we'll get better at a couple of things. And maybe our lives will have more of what I call the Friday feeling. Thank you so much for joining me for episode one. I don't even know what really the format of this is going to be. Sometimes I'll interview people. I do have some interviews like backstocked from last year, which I will share with you all. But yeah, it's evolving and I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. I can't wait to talk to you next Friday. And until then, go out and live your life. Bye.